The late afternoon sun, golden and hazy, poured through Mae Peterson's bedroom window, illuminating dust motes dancing in the air. On her worn wooden desk, amidst sketchbooks and half-finished art projects, lay a smooth, gray river rock, warmed by the sunlight. It wasn't just any rock. It was perfect, palm-sized, flat enough for a canvas, yet rounded at the edges, like a comforting worrystone. Lily traced its cool surface with a fingertip, a faint smile playing on her lips. Lily Mae was 16, lived in a small town in rural Kentucky, a place where the biggest excitement was the Friday night football game, or the annual county fair. Her life, by most standards, was quiet, predictable. But her inner world, that was a kaleidoscope of vibrant colors and soaring melodies, all thanks to one man, Elvis Presley. From the moment she'd first heard Heartbreak Hotel on her grandmother's ancient radio, a switch had flipped inside her. It wasn't just the music, though that was certainly magic. It was Elvis himself. His voice, his charisma, the way he seemed to pour his entire soul into every note. To Lily, Elvis wasn't just a pop star, he was a phenomenon, a force of nature, a voice that understood things no one else seemed to. He sang of loneliness and joy, of yearning and belonging, and somehow, through the static and the airwaves, he spoke directly to her heart. She collected every magazine with his face on the cover, every newspaper clipping, every album she could save up for. Her bedroom walls were a collage of his smiling face, his powerful stage presence, his iconic outfits. She knew the lyrics to every song, the release dates of every movie, the names of his beloved dogs. She was a fan, yes, but it felt deeper than that. It felt like a kinship. Lately, though a different kind of thought had been swirling in her mind, she'd sent letters before, simple fan mail, hoping for an autograph, maybe a picture. She wanted to do something different, something that truly expressed the depth of her admiration, something that stood out from the millions of gifts and letters Elvis must receive. She knew he was surrounded by glamour, by expensive things, by the trappings of unimaginable fame. What could she, a simple girl from Kentucky, offer that would be unique, meaningful, truly from the heart? The answer had come to her during a walk along the quiet banks of the Kentucky River, the same river that had carved this very rock. She'd stumbled upon it smooth and flawless, and a spark had ignited. She was an artist. She loved to paint, to bring beauty to life with her brushes and colors. Why not paint something for him? It wouldn't be a portrait of him or a flashy declaration of love. No, that wasn't her style. And it wouldn't be unique. She wanted to give him a piece of her world, something that might bring him a moment of peace, a quiet beauty amidst the roar of his life. She imagined him perhaps tired after a show or feeling overwhelmed by the endless demands of his fame, and seeing something small, humble, and beautiful. She spent days, sometimes weeks, just holding the rock, turning it over in her hands, letting ideas percolate. What image would convey what she wanted? A landscape, a simple flower. She wanted it to be calming, a little piece of nature's serenity. Something that spoke of home, of quiet moments, of simple beauty. Her gaze fell upon a photograph of Graceland in one of her magazines. It was grand, impressive, but she imagined that even within its walls there might be a yearning for something less ornate, more grounded. She thought about the endless touring, the crowds, the constant spotlight. What did a man like that truly crave? Perhaps a moment of stillness, a reminder of the quiet beauty that existed beyond the stage lights. Then it clicked, a sunset, not a dramatic fiery sunset, but a soft pastel one, kind that made the sky blush with pinks and oranges and mauves, casting long shadows over fields of tall grass, just as it did over the fields around her own small town. It was simple, universal, and incredibly peaceful. It was a kind of beauty that could be found anywhere, even in a humble painted rock. She imagined the feeling of that evening sky, the last warmth of the day fading into twilight. It was a feeling of comfort, of peace, of coming home. That's what she wanted to give him. a feeling encapsulated in the tiny painted stone. The idea filled her with a quiet excitement, a sense of purpose. This wasn't just another fan gift. It was an offering, a small piece of her soul, hoping to connect with his in a way that transcended fame and distance. She carefully gathered her finest brushes, her most vibrant tubes of acrylic paint. The canvas was small, unusual, and perfectly suited for the quiet message she intended to send. She took a deep breath, picked up the rock, and began to envision the simple dream she was about to bring to life. Lily Mae laid out her paints on a well-worn palette. Tubes of cadmium red, golden yellow, ultramarine blue, and titanium white gleaming under the desk lamp. She had prepped the river rock earlier, cleaning it meticulously, ensuring its surface was perfectly smooth and ready to accept the paint. This wasn't just a craft project. It was a mission, a heartfelt endeavor. She started with the background, a wash of pale, ethereal blue that would form the highest part of the sky. Her brush strokes were delicate, almost reverent, as if she were afraid to disturb the rock's natural calm. Then came the faintest blush of pink, bleeding into a soft orange, gradually building the layers of the sunset. She remembered countless evenings spent watching the sky from her bedroom window, the way the colors shifted and merged, never quite the same. She tried to capture that fleeting magic. On the tiny stone, she wasn't trying to create a masterpiece for a gallery. She was creating a moment, a feeling. Each stroke was infused with her sincerity, her admiration, her unspoken wish that this little object might bring even a fleeting moment of peace to a man who, despite his immense fame, sometimes seemed to carry a profound loneliness in his eyes. She imagined him holding it, turning it over in his hand, and seeing not just a painting but a quiet message from a fan who truly saw him. The horizon line was a gentle sweep of deep lavender and muted green, representing distant fields blurring into twilight. A tiny, almost imperceptible silhouette of a solitary tree stood against the glowing sky, its branches reaching upwards like delicate lace. It was a simple composition, uncluttered, serene. The kind of scene that invited contemplation, that whispered of quiet evenings and the enduring beauty of nature. Hours passed unnoticed. The lamp cast long shadows across her desk as the sky outside her window deepened to a navy blue, mirroring the very scene she was bringing to life. When she finally set her brush down, the painting was complete. Colors were soft, harmonious, a miniature world of tranquility. Captured on stone, she held it up, turning it gently. It felt warm from her hands, solid and real. She wanted to explain why she sent it, to convey the genuine sentiment behind it. She took out a fresh sheet of her best stationery, simple and unlined. She wrote slowly, choosing her words with care, not wanting to sound gushing or demanding. Dear Mr. Presley, my name is Lily Mae Peterson, and I'm writing to you from a small town in Kentucky. I'm a big fan, and your music means so much to me. It always lifts my spirits and makes me feel like anything is possible. I know you must receive so many amazing gifts and letters, and I didn't want to send just another one. I wanted to send something from my heart, something that might bring you a moment of quiet. I painted this rock for you. It's a sunset over fields like the ones near my home. I hope it brings you a feeling of peace, a little reminder of the simple beauty in the world, far away from all the bright lights and big crowds. Sometimes, when life gets busy, a little piece of quiet beauty can be a comfort. It's just a small rock, but it was painted with a lot of thought and gratitude for all the joy you bring to so many people. Thank you for your music. Sincerely, Lily Mae Peterson. No request for autographs, no demands for a reply, just a heartfelt offering. She folded the letter carefully, her hands trembling slightly with a mixture of nerves and anticipation. Next, the packaging. She didn't have fancy gift wrap. Instead, she found a small, plain cardboard box, just large enough for the rock and the folded letter. She wrapped the painted rock in a soft piece of velvet fabric she'd saved from an old dress, cushioning it gently so it wouldn't get damaged in transit. Then she placed the letter on top. She sealed the box with tape, then wrapped it in simple brown paper, securing it with twine. On the outside, she wrote the address for Graceland, Memphis, Tennessee. In her neatest handwriting, the trip to the post office felt momentous. The familiar walk down Main Street past the sleepy storefronts seemed charged with a new significance. Inside, Mrs. Henderson, the kindly postmistress, looked at the small, carefully wrapped package with a curious smile. "Something special going out today, Lily Mae?" she asked, her spectacles perched on her nose. Lily Mae just smiled, a secret sparkling in her eyes. "You could say that, Mrs. Henderson. Very special." She paid for the postage, her heart thumping a little faster. As Mrs. Henderson affixed the stamps and placed the package in the outgoing mail bin, Lily Mae felt a profound sense of letting go. She had poured her heart into this small rock, into that simple letter. Now it was out of her hands on its journey to Graceland, to the king of rock and roll. She had no idea if it would ever reach him, let alone if he would ever truly see it. But the act of sending it, of offering something pure and heartfelt, was a gift to herself, a quiet declaration of her own belief in simple beauty and profound connection. She walked home, the setting sun painting the very scene she'd captured on her rock across the Kentucky sky. A hopeful lightness in her step. The mailroom at Graceland was by any standard a whirlwind. Crates and boxes arrived daily, filled with letters, gifts, fan, art, and elaborate declarations of love from every corner of the globe. It was a permanent testament to the unparalleled reach of Elvis Presley's fame. On a Tuesday morning, a new shipment arrived. Bobby, a young man who worked primarily in the groundskeeping but occasionally helped with mail sorting, wheeled in a dolly piled high with bags from the local post office. He dumped them onto a long sorting table, sending a small dust cloud into the air. "All right, let's get through this mountain," said Patsy, Elvis's longtime secretary, a kind woman with a no-nonsense efficiency and a surprisingly soft spot for the fans. She wore reading glasses, perched on her nose, and moved with practiced ease through the organized chaos. Most of the mail followed a pattern, thousands of letters, almost all requesting autographs or sending well wishes. Gifts ranged from the extravagant custom-made suits, diamond-encrusted trinkets, even cars, which, of course, were always politely declined, to the utterly bizarre, like jars, of healing earth or knitted hats for his dogs. There were endless teddy bears, personalized records, and framed photos of Elvis himself. Patsy and the small team she oversaw had developed an uncanny ability to quickly categorize, respond, or discard items. Bobby began tearing open packages, tossing tissue paper and ribbons into a growing pile. "Another 10 teddy bears, Patsy," he called out. "And a gold-plated toilet seat cover?" "Really?" Patsy chuckled, unfazed. "Just put it with the other unique items, Bobby. You never know what Colonel Parker might decide to auction off." Then Bobby picked up a small, unassuming package wrapped in plain brown paper secured with twine. It was surprisingly heavy for its size, and there was no flashy bow or glitter. Just a neatly handwritten address. "Hey, Patsy, what's this one?" Patsy glanced over. "Looks like a homemade job." She took it from him, her fingers quickly untying the twine, revealing the simple tape beneath. She carefully peeled back the paper, then lifted the cardboard flaps. Inside, nestled in a piece of soft, dark velvet, was a small, smooth river rock. The surface was painted with a delicate, almost ethereal sunset, soft blues fading into pinks, oranges, and purples, with the silhouette of a tiny tree against the horizon. It was simple, unpretentious, and utterly unlike anything else in the mailroom. Patsy's eyebrows rose. "Well, I'll be," she murmured. Lifting the rock from its velvet cocoon, she turned it over in her hand, admiring the artistry. The words were so genuine, so humble, so free of the usual demands or hyperbole. "I hope it brings you a feeling of peace, a little reminder of the simple beauty in the world, far away from all the bright lights and big crowds. Sometimes when life gets busy, a little piece of quiet beauty, can be a comfort. Patsy finished reading, a quiet smile on her face. This wasn't just fan mail. It was a pure, unadulterated gesture of kindness. It stood in stark contrast to the extravagance and sometimes desperation of other gifts. It wasn't about getting something from Elvis, it was about giving him something. "This one's different," she said, holding up the rock and the letter. Bobby peered over her shoulder. "A rock? What for?" "Read the letter, Bobby," Patsy instructed, handing it to him. Bobby scanned it quickly, and even his usual cynical expression softened. "Huh, a painted rock from a girl in Kentucky? No autograph request? Just peace." He scratched his head. "Well, that's a new one." Patsy nodded. "Indeed, this one needs to go to Vernon." "Vernon Presley?" Elvis's father was a practical man, but he also had a keen understanding of his son's needs and vulnerabilities. He was the filter for much of the personal mail, deciding what Elvis would truly appreciate seeing. "It's not just another fan asking for a handout, is it?" Bobby observed. "No, it's not," Patsy confirmed, her voice gentle. "It's something special, something real." She carefully placed the painted rock back into its velvet wrapping, laid the letter on top, and put the small package aside on her desk, away from the mounds of other mail. It deserved a different path, a direct route to Elvis. She had a feeling this little piece of Kentuckian serenity might be exactly what the king of rock and roll needed right now. Elvis Presley paced the grand living room at Graceland, his restless energy barely contained by the opulent surroundings. Outside, the Memphis sun beat down, but inside the air was cool, almost heavy with a quiet tension. He was home for a brief respite between tours, a whirlwind of recording sessions, movie obligations, and live performances. The roar of the crowds, the flashing lights, the constant demands on his time and his very being. It was exhilarating, yes, but also utterly draining. He ran a hand through his perfectly coiffed hair, a sigh escaping his lips. He was tired, bone-deep tired. The fame which had once felt like a thrilling ascent, now often felt like a cage, albeit a golden one. He was surrounded by people, but often felt profoundly alone, yearning for something real, something simple amidst the manufactured chaos of his life. Vernon Presley, Elvis's father, walked in a small stack of papers and a single small package in his hand. Vernon was a man of few words, but his love for his son was evident in every thoughtful gesture. He knew Elvis better than anyone, recognized the subtle shifts in his mood. "The unspoken yearning," Elvis, Vernon said, his voice quiet. "Some things came in today, most of it's the usual, but Patsy set a few aside for you to look at, said they were different." Elvis barely glanced up. "More letters? More things?" He waved a dismissive hand. He appreciated his fans truly, but the sheer volume of their adoration, the constant stream of gifts, often felt overwhelming, a tangible manifestation of the very demands that exhausted him. Vernon placed the small pile on a nearby table, then picked up the single small brown-wrapped package. This one, Patsy seemed to think, was worth your time. Elvis, intrigued by his father's unusual emphasis, walked over. He picked up the unassuming package. It felt surprisingly heavy in his hand, and its plainness stood out amidst the usual flashy fan gifts. No ornate wrapping, no glitter, just simple paper. And twine carefully undid the wrapping, his fingers surprisingly delicate for a man whose hands were used to gripping microphones and guitar necks. Peeled back the paper, revealing the small cardboard box. He opened it and lifted the soft velvet cloth. Beneath it, nestled like a small, unexpected jewel, was the painted river rock. Elvis held it in his palm, turning it slowly. His initial reaction was a soft chuckle, a note of surprise in his voice. "Well, I'll be a rock." It was so unexpected, so un-Graceland. Then he looked closer. Colors of the sunset were vivid yet serene, soft blues melting into gentle pinks and oranges. Tiny silhouette of the tree against the horizon was exquisitely detailed. It wasn't a childish drawing. It was clearly the work of someone with genuine artistic talent. There was a quiet beauty to it. A miniature landscape of peace. Beneath the rock, folded neatly, was the letter. Elvis set the rock down on the table, picked up the letter, and began to read. As he did, the faint smile that had touched his lips faded, replaced by an expression of genuine thoughtfulness. He read Lily Mae's words aloud, his voice low, almost a murmur. "I hope it brings you a feeling of peace, a little reminder of the simple beauty in the world. Sometimes when life gets busy, a little piece of quiet beauty can be a comfort." He finished reading, his eyes still fixed on the letter, then slowly lifted them to look at the painted rock. Picked it up again, running his thumb over the smooth painted surface. It was so simple, so utterly humble, and yet it resonated with something deep inside him, something that had been aching for authenticity. He received diamond rings, custom cars, priceless watches. But this was different. This wasn't about his fame or his wealth. It was about a genuine connection, a pure wish for his well-being. The girl, Lily Mae, understood. She saw beyond the king to the man who sometimes longed for quiet, for peace, for simple beauty. He felt a quiet wave of gratitude wash over him. This wasn't a demand, it was an offering. And in that moment, in the quiet grandeur of his living room, surrounded by all the symbols of his immense success, a simple painted rock from a fan he'd never met felt more precious than any gem. It was real, and that right now was exactly what he needed. Later that evening, after a quiet dinner, Elvis sat in his private sitting room, the painted rock still clutched in his hand. Priscilla sat beside him on the plush velvet sofa, leafing through a fashion magazine. She glanced up, noticing the unusual object he was holding, a small frown creasing her brow. "What's that, honey?" she asked, her voice soft, a faint, almost tender, a faint, "Ought exactly." He held out the rock for her to see. "A fan scent." Priscilla took the rock gently, turning it over in her delicate fingers. Her eyes widened slightly as she took in the miniature sunset, the delicate brush strokes, the simple beauty of it. "Oh, it's unique," she said, genuinely surprised. "It's beautiful, Elvis. The colors are so soft." "There's a letter with it," Elvis said, picking it up from the side table and handing it to her. "Read it." Priscilla read Lily Mae's words, her expression mirroring Elvis's earlier thoughtfulness. She looked from the letter to the rock, then back to Elvis, a deeper understanding dawning in her eyes. "She just wants you to have peace," Priscilla murmured, touched. "No demands, no autograph requests, just a wish for comfort." Elvis nodded, his gaze fixed on the rock in her hand. "That's what got me. Everyone wants something. They want a piece of me, a part of my fame. They send me things that scream, 'Look at me. Look at what I got you,' but she just sent a piece of quiet, a piece of home." He reached out and gently took the rock back, his thumb tracing the painted surface. "It made me stop, Priscilla. In all this craziness, all the touring, the records, the movies, it made me just stop and think about something simple, something real." Priscilla leaned her head on his shoulder, her voice warm. "It's a beautiful thought, Elvis, and it's beautifully done. She must be very talented." "She is," Elvis agreed, his voice a little softer than usual. "And she just understood that sometimes even a king might just want a little quiet beauty." Comfortable silence settled between them, the soft glow of the lamps illuminating the room. Elvis continued to hold the rock, turning it, feeling its smooth coolness against his skin. He didn't want to put it down. It felt like a small, tangible anchor in his often turbulent world. "I want to keep it," he said, breaking the silence. "Not like the other gifts locked away in a cabinet or stored in the basement. I want to keep it where I can see it." Priscilla nodded. "Of course, but where?" She gestured around the grand room. Graceland was filled with extravagant furnishings, glittering awards, framed gold records, and countless valuable possessions. A simple painted rock might look out of place, Elvis walked around the room, considering various spots. Try placing it on a marble-topped coffee table, but it seemed lost amidst the ornate decorative items. He thought about his music room, but that was usually a hub of activity and loud music. His trophy room was out of the question. The rock would be swallowed by the gleaming gold and silver. He wanted a place that was both visible to him but also personal. A place where it wouldn't be just another curiosity for a visitor, but a constant quiet reminder for himself. He needed to find a spot that conveyed its true value. To him, not monetary but spiritual. He walked into his office, a more private space filled with books, photographs, and personal mementos. He looked at his large, polished desk, usually cluttered with papers, scripts, and business documents. He imagined it there, a small, unassuming splash of color. And then he thought of his bedroom, his inner sanctuary, the place where he truly rested, truly was himself. He walked upstairs, the rock still in his hand. He looked at his nightstand piled with books. Too close perhaps, too intimate, too easily overlooked in the early morning haze. He walked to a small private sitting area just off his bedroom, a quiet nook, with a comfortable armchair and a small antique side table. It was a place where he often went to read, to think, to escape the noise. Placed the rock on the side table right beside a small, cherished photograph of his mother, Gladys. The soft light from the nearby window caught the colors of the sunset, painting making them glow. He stepped back, looking at it. It was perfect. It wasn't on display for the world, but it was prominently there, waiting for his eyes to fall upon it. It was a personal treasure, a quiet guardian of peace in his private world. In that moment he knew this simple painted stone meant more to him than any diamond. It was a symbol of authentic connection, a beautiful reminder that even amidst the dazzling, sometimes overwhelming spectacle of his fame, true human kindness could still find its way to him. The small painted river rock found its permanent home on the antique side table in Elvis's private sitting area just off his master bedroom. It wasn't a spot for public viewing, not like the grand displays in Graceland's formal rooms. This was a personal choice, a conscious decision to keep something so intimately meaningful in a place that offered him sanctuary and quiet reflection. Every morning as Elvis rose, he would often glance towards that small table. The rock was always there, a solid, tangible presence. The painted sunset, vibrant and serene, seemed to glow in the soft morning light. It wasn't flashy, it wasn't valuable in a monetary sense, but to Elvis it quickly became priceless. He found himself looking at it throughout the day. When he was feeling overwhelmed by business decisions, by the pressures of his career, or by the constant demands of the world, he would sometimes retreat to that quiet nook. He'd sink into the armchair, and his eyes would naturally drift to the rock. It wasn't a magical cure for his anxieties, but it was a grounding presence. It reminded him of Lily Mae's simple wish, a feeling of peace, a little reminder of the simple beauty in the world. In a life where everything was amplified, exaggerated, and often transactional, this small gift was a refreshing breath of humility and pure intention. He began to associate the rock with moments of calm. If he was reading a book, he might reach out and run his thumb over its smooth surface. If he was deep in thought, staring out the window at the familiar Graceland grounds, the rock in his peripheral vision would subtly draw his attention, pulling him back to that fundamental truth, that beneath all the fame and fortune, what truly mattered were simple, genuine connections. Sometimes she would see him just looking at it. A faraway look in his eyes, she understood. She knew the weight of his world, the suffocating embrace of his fame. This rock, a simple gesture from an unknown fan, offered him a tiny window to a simpler existence, a reminder that not all affection was conditional or demanding. One afternoon, his father, Vernon, came sitting quietly, just looking at the rock. Vernon paused, his hands tucked into his pockets. "Still got that little stone, huh?" Vernon observed, his voice a low rumble. Elvis turned a soft smile on his face. "Yeah, Pa. Still got it. Must mean something to you," Vernon mused, stepping closer and peering at the painted surface. "Ain't seen you take to something like this in a while." Most folks send you watches or custom guitars. It does, Elvis confirmed, his voice holding a depth of feeling. It means a lot. It's pure, no strings attached, just a kind thought from a kind heart. Vernon nodded slowly, his eyes thoughtful. He knew that for all the adulation, Elvis often craved sincerity, something untainted by the commercial machinery of his life. This rock, in its humble form, represented exactly that. It was a quiet rebellion against the grandeur, a beacon of authenticity. "Yeah," Vernon said, a hint of understanding in his voice. Elvis picked up the rock, feeling its weight in his hand, its unyielding solidity. He looked at the miniature sunset, the quiet fields, and felt a profound connection to the unseen artist, Lily Mae, who had poured her heart into this small object. It wasn't about the cost, it was about the intention. It wasn't about fame. It was about shared humanity. And in a house filled with diamonds and gold, this humble, painted rock had truly become his most cherished jewel. A silent, enduring symbol of grace and quiet beauty. He displayed it not in a locked vault, but in his most private space, like a diamond, because to him its value was truly beyond measure. The painted rock in its discreet yet significant placement inevitably began to garner attention from the few people who had regular access to Elvis's private quarters. The Memphis Mafia, his inner circle of friends, bodyguards, and associates, were the first to notice. They were used to seeing Elvis surrounded by extravagance, by new cars, custom jewelry, and expensive electronics. A simple painted stone was definitely an anomaly. Red West, one of Elvis's closest friends and bodyguards, was the first to speak up. One morning he walked into the sitting area and saw Elvis absently turning the rock over in his hand. "What's that, E?" Red asked, his brow furrowed in curiosity. "Some new kind of good luck charm?" Elvis looked up, a faint smile on his face. "Nah, not exactly. It's a gift from a fan." He held it out for Red to see. Red took it, turning it over his big hands, surprisingly gentle. "A rock? Someone sent you a painted rock?" He chuckled, a good-natured laugh. "Well, that's certainly different. What's on it? A sunset?" "Yeah," Elvis affirmed. "A sunset over fields. The girl who sent it said she hoped it would bring me peace. A reminder of simple beauty." Red looked at the rock again, then at Elvis, noticing the genuine softness in his friend's eyes. "Peace, huh? Lord knows you could use some of that, E." He handed it back, a new respect in his gaze. "It's real pretty, actually. Looks like she put a lot of work into it." "She did," Elvis agreed, placing it back on the table. "And she didn't ask for a thing, just sent it." Soon, others noticed. Marty Lacker, another close confidant, saw it one afternoon and paused. "Elvis, what's that little stone you got sitting here? Looks like a kid painted it." Elvis explained it again, the same quiet reverence in his voice. "Not just a kid, Marty. It's from a fan named Lily Mae. She put her heart into it. And it's more meaningful than half the expensive stuff people send." Marty, usually quick with a joke, listened intently. He knew Elvis often felt burdened by the demands of his fame, and he could see that this simple gift, untainted by expectation. "Jell, I'll be," Marty mused, nodding. "A rock that makes the king happy. Who'd have thought?" It became a small, quiet legend among the inner circle. They would sometimes point it out to each other, a little secret nod to Elvis's unexpected treasure. They might not fully grasp the depth of its meaning to him, but they understood that it was important. It was a tangible representation of something beyond the glitz and the noise, something that offered Elvis a rare moment of introspection and calm. Even Vernon, who had initially presented the rock, would sometimes pause when he passed it, a faint approving smile on his lips. He saw his son's connection to it, how it seemed to provide a quiet comfort. He knew Elvis craved authenticity, and this humble stone, painted by an unknown hand, was perhaps the most authentic gift he had ever received. One evening, after a particularly demanding day of recording, Elvis retreated to his private sitting room. He felt drained, his voice hoarse, his mind buzzing with song, lyrics, and studio technicalities. He sank into the armchair, rubbing his temples, and his gaze fell on the painted rock. The miniature sunset seemed to glow, its colors radiating a gentle warmth. He picked it up, feeling its smooth, cool weight in his palm. He thought of Lily Mae, the young artist in Kentucky, who had simply wished him peace. He imagined her a quiet girl, meticulously painting this small scene, pouring her heart into it. In that moment, the rock wasn't just a gift. It was a testament to the genuine, pure love that existed among his fans, a love that wasn't about flash or fame, but about a sincere connection, a wish for his well-being. It was a tiny, steadfast beacon of humility and heart, standing firm against the backdrop of Graceland's grandeur, a silent reminder that the greatest treasures often came in the simplest forms. Truly was displayed like a diamond in his mind, because its quiet power shone brighter than any jewel. Back in her small Kentucky town, Lily Mae's life continued its quiet rhythm. Weeks turned into months, and then a year had passed since she'd mailed the painted rock to Elvis. She never expected a reply, never truly thought her humble offering would reach the king himself. The act of creating it, of sending it, had been its own reward, a deeply personal expression of her admiration. Yet a tiny, persistent spark of hope remained, a secret wish that perhaps, just perhaps, it had made a difference. She still listened to Elvis's music daily, still devoured every magazine article, still dreamed of seeing him perform live one day. His latest movies played in the local cinema, and she went to everyone, losing herself in the stories and his presence on the screen. She felt a distant, almost spiritual connection to him through his art, and her own art continued to flourish. The act of painting the rock had emboldened her, made her believe more in the power of simple, heartfelt creation. One afternoon, reading a fan magazine, she saw a new photo spread of Elvis at Graceland. It showed him in various rooms, sometimes with Priscilla, sometimes with his family, or the Memphis Mafia. Lily Mae studied every detail, imagining what it must be like to live in such a legendary place. There was no mention of a painted rock, of course. Why would there be? It was just a small, insignificant thing in the grand scheme of his life. She felt a quiet warmth, a silent prayer, that perhaps somewhere in that vast mansion it had found a place. Meanwhile, at Graceland, the painted rock continued to be a constant grounding presence for Elvis. It was more than just an object. It was a symbol, a silent reminder of the pure, untainted affection that flowed from his genuine fans. In a world where so much was artificial, where relationships could feel conditional and attention fleeting, the rock stood as a testament to sincerity. Elvis often found himself simply looking at it. It was a stark contrast to the flash and noise of his public life. When he was dealing with demanding schedules, difficult negotiations, or the endless stream of people wanting a piece of him, his gaze would sometimes drift to the little rock. It was like a miniature landscape of peace, a quiet anchor in the stormy seas of his fame. He'd hold it sometimes, feeling its smooth, cool weight. Its tangible reality connected him to something outside the bubble of Graceland, outside the glare of the spotlights. It reminded him of the vast, quiet world beyond, where sunsets still painted the sky with humble beauty, and where a young girl in Kentucky simply wished him peace. He never forgot the letter. Lily Mae's words echoed in his mind, particularly the line about simple beauty being a comfort when life gets busy. He understood that sentiment profoundly. His life was intensely busy, intensely public, intensely demanding. The rock was a small personal counterpoint to all that. Sometimes, in moments of quiet reflection, he would wonder about Lily Mae. What was she like? Did she paint other things? Was she still in Kentucky? He knew he could probably have Patsy, or one of his staff, look her up. Perhaps even send a thank you note or a signed photo, but somehow that felt wrong. It would turn her pure, selfless gift into something transactional, something expected. He didn't want to spoil the beautiful, unasked-for nature of her gesture. He cherished it precisely because it was from an unknown, unexpected hand. It was a gift given purely out of kindness and admiration, not with any hope of return, that made it utterly unique among the thousands of things he received. It was a genuine human connection, untainted by the machinery of his celebrity. Painted rock became a testament to the fact that, even for the king of rock and roll, the greatest treasures weren't always found in diamonds or gold, but in the quiet, humble offerings of a sincere heart, a small glimpse of home, carried on the surface of a simple stone. It remained his constant silent companion, a tangible touchstone to genuine sentiment amidst the overwhelming reality of his fame. Painted rock wasn't just a static object in Elvis's room, it became an active, albeit silent participant in his daily life at Graceland. Its presence subtly influenced his mood, offering a constant counterpoint to the often overwhelming pressures of his career. There were days when Elvis would wake up feeling the weight of the world on his shoulders. The relentless recording schedules, the long hours filming movies that sometimes felt uninspired, the ever-present demands from Colonel Parker to maintain his relentless public image. It all took a toll. He'd often feel a deep weariness, a sense of disconnect from the simple joys he once knew. On such mornings, as he'd sit on the edge of his bed, collecting himself before facing the day, his eyes would invariably fall upon the rock on the nearby table. The painted sunset, in its muted colors, seemed to whisper a message of calm. He'd pick it up, turning it over in his hand, feeling its solid, unyielding presence. It was a reminder that beauty existed outside the studio, beyond the stage lights, in quiet moments and simple forms. He sometimes found himself unconsciously reaching for it when making difficult decisions. During long conversations with his father or his business manager about finances or future projects, if he felt himself getting agitated or lost in the complexities, he'd glance at the rock. Its quiet presence seemed to ground him, pulling him back to a place of fundamental truth. It reminded him that while his career was important, there was a deeper value in authenticity, in heartfelt connection, in the peace that came from simplicity. Priscilla often observed this quiet ritual. She saw how the rock seemed to calm him, how it brought a flicker of genuine peace to his often troubled eyes. She understood that it represented something profound to him, something that none of his more extravagant possessions could provide. It was a symbol of unadulterated love, given without expectation, and that rarity made it immeasurably valuable to him. One afternoon, after a particularly frustrating meeting where he felt pulled in too many directions, Elvis retreated to his sitting area. He slumped into the armchair, feeling utterly depleted. He had just argued about a song choice for his next album, a song he felt had no soul, but which his manager insisted was commercial. The constant battle between art and commerce wore him down. His gaze found the rock. He picked it up, holding it loosely in his palm. Painted skies seemed endless, boundless, a stark contrast to the confined, calculated world he often inhabited. He remembered Lily Mae's words, a little reminder of the simple beauty in the world, far away from all the bright lights and big crowds. He closed his eyes, taking a slow, deep breath. The coolness of the stone seeped into his skin. He imagined the fields in Kentucky, the quiet sunset, the unburdened artistry of a young girl. He imagined a life for a moment without the constant noise, without the endless demands. When he opened his eyes, a calm had settled over him. Not a resolution to his problems, but a shift in perspective. He realized that while he had to navigate the complexities of his career, he could still hold on to those moments of simple beauty, still value the genuine connections. The rock was his anchor, his touchstone to a truth often obscured by fame. "It's a strange thing, Priscilla," he mused later that evening, sitting with her. "All these people, they give me so much material things, adoration, everything a man could want, but this little rock..." He held it up, his thumbs stroking its painted surface. "This little rock, it means more than all the diamonds and gold combined, because it's real. It's just pure heart." Priscilla smiled, reaching out to gently touch his hand. "I know, honey. I see it." The painted rock was an unexpected connection, a quiet lifeline that reminded the king that even amidst the dazzling, overwhelming spectacle of his fame, the purest form of human connection, the most profound peace, could be found in the simplest, most heartfelt of gestures. It was his unsung treasure, displayed not in a vault, but in the quiet sanctuary of his soul, valued truly like a diamond. Years passed at Graceland, and the world outside changed. Elvis's career soared, dipped, and soared again. The music evolved, the movies kept coming, and the crowds remained as devoted as ever. Graceland itself became an even more iconic landmark, a pilgrimage site for fans from every corner of the globe. Throughout all the shifts and seasons, the painted river rock remained in its chosen spot, on the antique side table in Elvis's private sitting area. It was a quiet fixture, sometimes unnoticed by casual observers, but always there, for Elvis. Its colors, though slightly mellowed by time, still held the serene beauty of Lily Mae's painted sunset. Elvis, now older, with deeper lines etched around his eyes from the relentless pace of his life, still found himself looking at it. It had become more than just a treasured gift. It was a symbol, a testament to enduring truth. It represented a purity that he often struggled to find in the commercialized world of entertainment. He would sometimes pick it up, letting its familiar weight rest in his palm. He'd run his thumb over the faint outline of the little tree, the smooth curve of the stone. He'd think of Lily Mae, the young girl who had scented her simple, profound wish for his peace. He never sought her out, maintaining the sacred, anonymous nature of her gift. To have done otherwise would have in some way diminished its beautiful, unasked-for quality. The rock was a constant, quiet reminder that the most valuable things in life were often intangible. Sincere affection, moments of tranquility, the beauty found in nature, and a genuine spirit of human connection. It was a counterpoint to the endless stream of material possessions, a stark contrast to the diamonds, the Cadillacs, the furs, and the gold records that filled his mansion. Those were symbols of his success, but the rock was a symbol of his soul, a quiet comfort for his heart. When Graceland eventually opened to the public, the sitting area off Elvis's bedroom remained a very private space, not usually part of the standard tour. Yet, for those privileged few who were allowed a glimpse to more intimate corners of the mansion, perhaps close friends, or very special guests, the little rock might sometime, and though the rock would never feature in museum displays, or be valued by appraisers, its true worth resonated deeply within the heart of the king. He held it not like a costly jewel, but like a personal relic of genuine affection. It was a tangible piece of unadulterated kindness, a quiet moment of beauty from an ordinary world that had found its way into his extraordinary life. In the later years, when the spotlight felt heavier, the demands more intense, the rock became even more significant. It was a quiet anchor, a touchstone to a simpler existence. He'd sit in his armchair, the rock in his hand, and look out at the familiar grounds of Graceland, thinking of Lily Mae, thinking of the quiet fields under a Kentucky sunset. The story ends not with a grand revelation or a meeting, but with the enduring power of a simple, heartfelt gesture. The fans sent a painted rock. Elvis Presley displayed it at Graceland, not in a vault, not behind glass for the world to see its monetary value, but in the most personal, cherished part of his home. He displayed it like a diamond, because to him it was more precious than any jewel. It was a tangible reminder that genuine love, pure intentions, and simple beauty were the true treasures in a life overflowing with everything money could buy. And that, for Elvis, was truly priceless.